Hey everyone, today we're going to be checking out the Zephyr Travel Backpack from Black Voyage. And I was really excited about this one because it's the first travel bag I've had a chance to test out that has one of those built-in vacuum compression systems. I've gotten a ton of messages from friends and family asking when I was going to review one of these types of bags because there's so many videos on Instagram of the bags getting loaded out with a ton of stuff and then using some sort of a vacuum to remove all of the air so that you can fit extra things in. It seemed like a really cool and innovative idea. And so I've had a chance to get hands-on with this for a couple of weeks now. Going in, one of the biggest things that I was curious about was how well this works as a backpack on its own without the compression system. That's always one of the things that I keep an eye out for with some of these bags that have cool new features. Sometimes the bag itself isn't a great experience once you take away that additional feature. So I wanted to take a look at that and then also what it's like to use a compression system like this while you're actually traveling. And so I'm gonna be talking about what it's been like to test it. I'll show you how I've loaded it out, walk through all the features, and I'll also talk about how it compares to some of the other similar bags that are currently on the market. Before jumping into the video, if you're new here, welcome. My name is Danny, and on this channel, we love reviewing popular travel and everyday carry gear. If you like these types of videos and you'd be interested in seeing more, please consider subscribing as it helps the channel out a lot. So with all that being said, let's go ahead and jump in. Starting off with the overall aesthetic, the bag has a pretty minimal and sleek exterior. It reminds me of many of the other modern travel bags that are currently on the market. So I think it's something that's gonna, work well in a lot of different environments. As far as the materials, this feels really solidly built. The exterior fabric is a recycled nylon that feels like it's gonna hold up well to rougher usage and also offer a nice amount of weather resistance. Beyond that, you have some really nice components all throughout for the buckles, and then some very well protected SBS zippers all throughout that have worked quite smoothly. One thing to note with all the functionality and the materials offered here is that the weight of the bag comes in at around 4 pounds, a little bit over that, and so it is a hefty bag. You do get a lot for that weight, but it's definitely something that you'll want to keep in mind, particularly if you're going to be traveling on some of these stricter international airlines. Continuing along the outside of the bag, you have compression straps on each side, and I like that these have buckles to make them easier to use, whether you want to attach something to the exterior or just tighten the bag down when it's not quite as full. And at the top, you have a really nice carrying handle. It's well reinforced, it's got a nice amount of padding, very cushioned. And then you also have an external water bottle pocket. I like the implementation here with this zippered system to allow the bag to keep the pocket close and sleek when it's not in use, and then you can unzip it. This is gonna be able to handle something like my 20-ounce water bottle pretty comfortably. It does have some elasticity and enough depth to handle it. It's not the deepest pocket, and anything larger than this I don't think is gonna fit super well, but still nice to have it, and then again having that ability to zip it up so that it doesn't get snagged on anything. Along the front, you have a very minimal appearance, which I really like. No prominent branding, so super sleek. Moving into the capacity, this was an interesting one to evaluate, just given all the different factors that could impact the volume of the bag. I saw on the company's site that the volume was listed at 30 and 40 liters on different parts of the site. My guess is that the bag comes in at 30 liters when it's compressed down, and if you're not using the vacuum system on the inside. If you keep it compressed and you use the vacuum system, you can maybe get 40 liters out of it. And then it also has the ability to expand out to 50 liters. And again, if you're not using the vacuum system, when it's expanded, that's sort of the capacity I think that's implied. And then if you also use the compression and you expand it, they say that it can hold about 60 liters of stuff. And so that's a lot of different numbers there. And it is great to have options as far as the volume, depending on how you're gonna be traveling, what you're gonna be carrying. And so at the 30 liters, it felt like I was able to hold the items that I would expect. So it's a solid minimal travel bag option if you just keep it compressed and don't use the vacuum system. It does feel like this is a carry-on friendly size on a variety of domestic and international airlines, and something that you can place in an overhead storage compartment. I do think that it's gonna be a little bit too large as a personal item. And if you expand this all the way out, it does start to feel a little bit bulkier. It's gonna stick out, and so that's something that you'll wanna keep an eye on depending on the airline that you're gonna be traveling with. In case it's one of the stricter ones, they may wanna put it in one of the sizers, and if it's expanded out, I think that it's a bag that might not fit. Continuing with the harness system, so far the bag has been really comfortable to wear. I like how the straps have been implemented here. They have a nice amount of padding. This feels pretty robust. On the inside, you have a nice breathable material to help prevent moisture from building up. The straps also have a good width to help prevent the bag from digging into your shoulders when it's a little bit more packed out. You have load lifters at the top to allow you to pull that weight closer to you, along with a smaller handle that you can use to maybe hang the bag up. This one's a little bit thinner. Then you have a few kind of attachment points here that you can use to clip on additional accessories, sunglasses, lights. You have a D-ring, an adjustable sternum strap with a magnetic buckle, so it's quick release. And then at the bottom, you also have a removable waist belt, and this one offers a nice amount of padding. It's well integrated into the bag, and I like that you can fully remove it if you prefer not to use it, although I think that it would be helpful once you really start to pack the bag out. I like the amount of padding that's been included here. And then you also have the ability to hide these straps away. You have these clips at the bottom that pair with the D-ring, and so you can easily release them, hide them at the top if you just want to give the bag a cleaner look when you're storing it away. On the back, you have a really nice padding that's also well distributed throughout the back. You have some good mesh here, plenty of breathability. You also have elevation to create these large air channels to provide you with plenty of airflow while you're walking around. So it's been great, even as I've been wearing this for a longer period of time. On the back, you also have a luggage pass-through to allow you to rest this on your suitcase while traveling. And you have a hidden zippered compartment. You have this Velcro strap near the top you can use to kind of cover the zipper, and then it goes all the way down. So it's a really spacious hidden pocket here that you can use to store anything that's a little bit more sensitive. I just have a field notes notebook in there, but even something taller like a notebook, or a variety of different passports and things that you just don't want easily accessible. Really nice to have something that's gonna offer this level of flexibility and protection. Jumping into the organizational options, you have a quick access pocket at the top, which offers a nice amount of space and volume. Always a fan of this style of compartment for the flexibility that it provides. And so at the moment, I have my sunglasses with their case, a packable tote bag from Peak Design, and then I have the portable vacuum that is actually sold by Black Voyage that's used to help compress the bag down. I'll come back around to this in a little bit. And then beyond that, you have a soft lining on the inside. So if you want to use this to store some headphones or anything a little bit more sensitive, it's great that you have a little bit of protection here. And you also have a lanyard with a clip that's going to be a good spot for your keys so that you can easily access them. And you have a zippered mesh pocket on the back that I'm using to store smaller items like my AirPods and a charging cable for my phone and my tablet. On the back, you have a dedicated tech compartment, which has an integrated lock on the side, which I think is a pretty cool idea if you want to have a little bit more peace of mind and not have to deal with carrying an extra lock. You can place these zipper pulls into this lock here. It's a combination lock, and you can quickly release them when you're ready to get into the compartment. Again, well-protected zippers here, and it's a top-loading compartment, and you have a nice lining on the inside so that you can easily see everything. And then you have a dedicated tablet and laptop sleeve. They have these elastic bands to kind of help keep your devices from falling out. They're easy to just move out of the way when you want to get to your device. And so I have my iPad mini in here. That was able to fit comfortably. And I like that you have, good padding on both the tablet and the laptop sleeves. That's not just a slip pocket. And then getting to my device, I have my 14-inch MacBook Pro. You can see that there's leftover space at the top. So if you have a 15 or 16-inch laptop, it should be able to fit in here pretty comfortably. And so I'll move these bands out of the way, and good padding on this sleeve as well. It does feel like it's a little bit pulled up off the bottom. It's hard to tell when everything is completely loaded out, but when I drop my laptop in, it doesn't feel like it's making contact with the ground. I kind of feel it around here. So great to have that additional kind of peace of mind. So pulling my device out, now with the compartment empty, you can get a better look at the inside. This sleeve does come up a decent amount, so if you happen to have a thicker device, it should be able to fit in here comfortably. I do think that if you want to store a tablet and your laptop here, it'll start to feel slightly tight, so you want to keep an eye on that. And then on the other side, you do have some built-in organization for some of your tech items. So you have a couple of slip pockets. In this one here, I have my mouse. Next to that, you have a couple of smaller pockets that are going to be good for something like a pen or a stylus. And then you have another slip pocket that is close to the USB cable that is included with the bag, because there is a port on the outside that you can use to charge your phone. So you can pull that open, and then you're going to have USB-A and USB-C, which is really cool. That pairs up nicely with my iPhone's charging cable. And so you connect that to a portable battery on the inside of the bag. This is sold separately but because it has a USB-A here, it is compatible with most common portable batteries on the market, and that slides in there. One thing to keep in mind, and you may have seen that when I was getting my laptop out, this cable can potentially get in the way, so you may want to just organize it a little bit better than I have here. But nice to have that, and then just a nice amount of space in that slip pocket, whether you want to use it for a portable battery or not. The last area that we're going to be taking a look at is the main compartment. This does have a suitcase style opening. One thing to note about the zippers is that they don't lock in the traditional sense. You can potentially still use a lock with the ends of the zipper pulls. And then another thing to keep in mind is that you do have to release the compression straps to be able to open the bag all the way up, so you can access the top section here. And there is a zipper that we'll take a closer look at, so you can grab some things, but to get full access, you have to release those compression straps and then bring the zipper all the way around. And then you have a really nice travel bag layout. And so you have the main storage area that also includes the vacuum compression system. On the other side, you have some additional space and organization. And so I'll start with the main space here, which currently just has my packing cube setup that I use for most of my travel bags. So this is the Peak Design system with the smaller compression packing cube and the medium-sized cube. And so right now the bag is compressed down and I don't have anything in the vacuum area. I just wanted to showcase how it looked without taking advantage of some of these other features. And so you can still just use it as a travel bag if you prefer not to kind of use this system. And it fits in there nicely. And then you can also expand this section out. And so this is where that expansion that I mentioned earlier comes in. You have a zipper that goes all the way around, and that will give you that extra capacity. So expanding it, opening it up. Even without the compression system, this is still gonna give you an impressive amount of space here in this main compartment. And so throw these packing cubes back in, and you can see that it just comes up even more. So you can toss in a packable backpack, an extra pair of shoes, some additional packing cubes. And so just as a bag on its own, you can start to see that it's still a very capable travel bag. But where the really unique aspect of the bag comes in is in the fact that it does have this compression system included here that you can take advantage of if you really want to maximize how much space you can get out of the bag. And so I'd use some of these systems that weren't integrated into a backpack before. I think that they're a really interesting idea. I've never been crazy about them just because it's an extra thing to deal with. You have to worry about the actual vacuum itself. And so I'll go ahead and walk through it first. You have this very well protected zipper here, which helps keep the air inside of the bag as you compress it down. You have some D-rings here that help you with the zipper because it can be quite difficult to kind of pull this. I was a little hesitant. And then you have the section here that you can open up and pair with the vacuum to pull all of the air out. And so grab the D-ring, open it up, and then you have this section here. You can place all of your clothes on the inside. And so I'm sure there's a lot of different ways that you can pack to take full advantage of this system. I always think that packing flatter is going to be the best way, so that as you compress everything down, it stays, pretty flat and you can still put things on top. I did experiment with a couple of different layouts here, and if I rolled the clothes up or I didn't quite flatten them out, you ended up with the compression still works and you can really see it pull all of the air out, but it would create kind of lumps that made it harder to pack in a way that felt as efficient as I normally like to do. But the system does work as promised. You can put your clothes in here however you pack it, then you close it up, and you have the D-rings again to help you do so. You have to make sure it's tightly sealed. And then you have the portable vacuum that Black Voyage sent for me to test out. I know there's a couple of different ones of these on the market. I love how compact this has been to make it very easy to, just toss into my bag. It looks like one of the travel adapters that I take to have, different plugs when I'm around the world. And so great to see that it's not something that's gonna take up a ton of space. It is fairly bulky, so that's something that you have to keep in mind. I'm sure if you can also get a vacuum in your hotel or the Airbnb where you're staying, that can also solve for the problem. And so this kit includes a couple of different nozzle heads that you can pair, and it took me a little while to kind of figure everything out. And then you can pair one of the heads with the vacuum. This does have the ability to suck the air out and also inflate things, which I thought was pretty cool. It's rechargeable, and one thing to note is that it is a little bit on the louder side as it is a vacuum. I'm gonna turn it on just for a second so you can hear it. then you pair that with the nozzle here and it pulls all of the air out. It's always really fun to watch everything just kind of get shrink down. And so I think that this system is gonna work well for people that are looking to experiment, with adding a little bit more into the bag and really getting as much space as possible out of, what's provided here. And so really cool idea, great to have it incorporated with the bag. And then also, if you don't want to use it, it can kind of just stay in the back, out of the way. It does add a little bit of weight and bulk, and that's one of the trade-offs with a system like this. But I think that it's gonna work well for people that really want to experiment and try to get the most space out of their bag. For me, I still prefer the pack and cube system. I'm just used to traveling that way, so that's probably what I'll continue to default to. But I know that this is something my wife loves to take advantage of, and that many other people in my family have told me that they've really enjoyed using in the past. And so I can see why, with how well the compression has kind of worked to allow me to get that extra bit of space. And then on the other side, you have a nice zippered compartment here. You can see what's on the inside. This offers a nice amount of space. I have another field notes notebook in here, but this could be a good spot for a travel wallet. I really like this material here. It also feels like if you want to store toiletries, it could prevent, everything from getting onto your stuff. So good to have that separation. And then you have an additional compartment here that has a nice amount of volume. I'm always a fan of this layout. It reminds me a little bit of something like the Kodo packs, the Alpha pack. So you have this whole segment here. It goes all the way to the top. And because you have this volume, you can really take advantage of this to use other packing cubes, to place, an extra pair of shoes. I have a packable rain jacket here at the moment, a Peak Design pouch. I also have a pair of my Toms in a packing cube, and this goes all the way to the top. And depending on how full you have this main compartment on the front, that will impact how much you can kind of organize here. But it's a very flexible layout. I think it's very travel friendly. And so overall, one of the questions that I mentioned at the beginning of the video is, does this work well if you take the compression system out? In my opinion, it does. This is still, just a really solid one bag travel option, but having that unique aspect here, I think is a really cool bonus. And, if you're looking for a travel bag that's gonna give you that option, as well as the flexibility to expand it, and that's also just gonna be comfortable to wear and have a modern aesthetic, and this is gonna be a really cool option to take a look at. And so to wrap up, it's been a pretty great experience testing out the Zephyr Travel Backpack over the past couple of weeks. You can currently purchase this on the company site. Standard pricing for the bag on its own is going to be around $300. I have seen some sales that have brought the price down to around $240, and then the vacuum that I featured in the video comes in at about $50, and then Black Voyage has a bundle deal that will reduce the price of both of these, so the total for that would be around $260, I believe. And it does feel like you're gonna need to have some sort of a vacuum to take full advantage of the bag. You don't have to use the one that Black Voyage sells necessarily, but it's something that will impact your cost regardless of the brand that you go with. And at this price point, this definitely is in the premium travel bag category. So it's an investment. It does feel like you're getting good value for the money as far as the materials and all of the features and the uniqueness that's included here, but there's gonna be some other great bags in this price range that may be worth considering. And so as I was testing this out, one of the first bags this made me think of is the Air Travel Pack 3, which has been one of my favorite travel bags for a number of years now. It comes in at 35 liters. It doesn't have the ability to expand. You can compress it down a little bit. It has compression straps on the sides, but at 35 liters, it's just a really great carry-on friendly size that I feel comfortable taking with me internationally. And then it has Air's typical modern, sleek style. Very solid materials, comfortable harness system, dedicated laptop compartment that's suspended, padded. I really like the organizational layout. It has a clamshell style opening, and so it's a bag that is always one of my top recommendations. I continue to use it year after year, and if you're looking for something durable and modern, then that's gonna be a fantastic option to take a look at. Another bag this made me think of is the Peak Design Travel Backpack, which is one of the most versatile and full-featured travel bags on the market. It has Peak Design's really sleek style, durable materials, and I really love the adjustable nature of the bag. You have compression straps that you can use on the front, on the bottom. You have dual external water bottle pockets, clamshell style opening from the back. You can also access the main area from the sides. You can expand it out. You can also compress it down. So you really have a lot of different options with how you use the bag. The harness system, as I mentioned, is not always my favorite, but it gets the job done. It includes a waist belt that you can hide away And so far it has held up well. It comes in at about 35 liters for the standard size, and then you can expand it to 40-ish liters. And so you're gonna be able to hold a ton of stuff with the layout that it includes. And particularly if you have to carry camera gear, it's gonna offer some additional features, access, and protection there. So if you're looking for something very modern that's gonna offer a lot of flexibility, then that's gonna be a really cool option to take a look at. And then the last option that I'll mention here is the Cotopaxi Alpha Pack. That's offered in a couple of different sizes. The 35 liter is the one that I really like, as it feels like something that is gonna be carry-on friendly pretty much anywhere that you take it. It has a suitcase style layout, and I really like the distribution of space in that bag. You have two spacious sections that you can use with packing cubes and to organize all of your stuff. And so it's a layout that reminds me a little bit of the one on the Zephyr backpack, but without the compression system. And so, that's very effective. You also have a really great quick access area that's gonna be very spacious. And with the new addition, I believe they added the water bottle pocket. You have a very comfortable harness system, built-in waist belt if you want that additional support. And they do offer it in the 42 liter size if you need some extra space, a 28 liter size if you want something that's more of a personal item or minimal travel bag. And then you have Cotopaxi's really durable materials. It's highly weather resistant. And so if you're looking for something that's gonna have kind of this style of organization, but without that compression system, that's gonna be a great option to keep an eye on. With that being said, the Zephyr Travel Backpack holds up pretty well against all those options, and although I think that the compression system is a really cool idea and it's well implemented, I probably won't be using it that much on my travels, as I'm really comfortable with my current packing cube setup, and I didn't really feel like this allowed me to hold so much more stuff that I would want to move away from what I'm comfortable with. But I do think that this is gonna work well for many types of travelers, particularly if you don't have a super kind of dialed in setup, or if you're wanting to experiment with ways to get even more space out of your bag, and you also want something that's gonna be comfortable, offer a solid build quality, weather resistance. I think this is gonna be a really cool option to consider. And I'm definitely curious to hear what you all think of the Zephyr backpack and just this category of bags in general with the built-in compression systems. And if there's any other similar options that you think that I should check out, as always, please let me know in the comments. And I want to thank Black Voyage for sending the bag for me to test out, and to you guys for watching and supporting the channel. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like, and if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any upcoming videos, and we'll see you in the next one.